Hey guys, Shorty here. So I am making this video so that I can share my build with everyone. This isn't really a build guide for this skill. I just wanted to show everyone what I'm doing, what I'm going, so that you can join me along on this journey and hopefully have fun together. So I am going to be going Divine Ire. It's going to be a cold crit occultist. It's going to be a lot of fun, I hope. This is going to be a week 1 build. This is not a starter build. This is not league starting. This is week 1, week 2 viable. Definitely not something that you can go right out of the gates. I'm not that crazy. I don't think. So a lot of people have come to me when I tell them I'm doing Divine Iron, like, Shorty, why are you doing this to yourself again? Okay, and I promise this is not Elemental Rain of Arrows League start crazy. Okay, this is Divine Iron. It is my favorite skill in the whole entire game, and it got buffed. All right, it's a really good buff. It's not like super insane, but it's definitely something that you can work with. You can do this. So I am really excited to use this skill again, and I'm fully committed. It's also one of my favorite playstyles. I love glass cannon. We all know I love glass cannons. I like to do the damage, and I don't care about defenses, right? That is the point of this skill. You sit there in the middle and do all this damage, and it's insane and it's fun. So I'm super excited to do this. Obviously in softcore, it's probably not hardcore viable. And the best part about this build is this gear is relatively cheap. So, the playstyle. I feel like a lot of people misunderstand Divine Ire. I think people think that you just sit in the middle channeling for 5 seconds and then release the beam, and the beam is the only thing that does damage, and that's just not true. You do sit in the middle of the pack, or you do want to be as close to the pack as possible, because you do have an area around you that does damage. But while you are mapping, it is that area that kills everything. That AoE that is around you in a circle, that thing, it does insane amounts of damage, and that's all you really need to actually kill the packs. You don't need the beam itself to up to stage 20 to actually do anything. It's definitely viable enough just charging it up. So this is a video I recorded of my Divine Ire Trickster. This is an Eternity Shroud multi-conversion build. It was really good back in Ritual League. However, there's been a lot of changes since then and is no longer as viable as it used to be. This build used to have control destruction on it, and that's just it. There's no crit on this build anymore. The picture to the right shows that this build at 4 power charges is at 40% crit chance and only 358 crit multi. So this is the scuffed plays, the scuffed damage, and even still, it's still one-shotting some rares. It's still one-shotting the white mobs. You sit right next to them, you channel for less than a second, and everything dies. There's really nothing to worry about while you're mapping. I think it's pretty similar to totem playstyle, personally. I've played a lot of totems, played a lot of brands. It feels pretty similar. You stop for a second, put stuff down, and keep moving. I'm gonna fast forward to the boss here. This is a Maze of the Minotaur. So this takes 4 beams for it to die. And if you can tell, maybe I can pause it on this first one. It got to 20 stages really fast, and the reason this does this is because you're able to gain stages faster when it hits a unique enemy. So even when you're against bosses, you're not sitting there for 3 seconds letting them whack on you to charge up to stage 20. You can still move around enough, and there's not really any hindrance on the movement. So what are different ways that you can get to stage 20 so fast? Because that is pretty much the point of like what you want to try and do a little bit, is get to stage 20 as fast as possible, because that beam is going to do the most damage at stage 20. So cast speed does affect the rate at which you're able to get to stage 20. So stacking cast speed is really good on this build. An additional stage when hitting rares or uniques is on the gem, so you're able to do it faster if you have a rare and unique in there. And then so at the end of the day, you are channeling less than 2 seconds even on the boss. It's really not a big deal, and stage 20 damage is not needed while you're mapping. You really you hit the button and keep running and things should die. So conversions, so this is going to be a cold build. So the gem itself already converts physical to lightning damage 50%. So to get the other 50%, we're actually just going to use the 40% lightning mastery that is on the on the tree. We're going to do the 40% of physical damage converted to lightning damage. And then we're going to go from lightning to cold using 2 Call the Brotherhoods. And that will get us at 96% of lightning to cold damage with the catalyst on the calls. And that will end us all at mostly all cold damage, which is going to be a lot of fun on Occultist. So this is our gear. 2 belts, alright? I'm just kidding, of course. But we're going to be going double void batteries because we're going to be power charge stacking. So it's going to be pretty insane using double void batteries. You also get a 15% block chance when you dual wield, so it's going to be fine even using dual wielding rather than a shield, because we're not going to lose too much defense, because we weren't going to build defense on the shield anyway, so it's okay. And every one of those mods on the void battery is going to be really good for us. For a helmet, I'm going to be going a Blizzard Crown. This is for the added cold damage. The negative effect, the resistance is as 10% higher than the actual value. That's not really going to affect us much. We have a lot of cold pen, a lot of cold exposure, treat the resistance as lower. So that will pretty much be mitigated through skill gems and through the passive tree. So after the added cold damage on the Blizzard Crown, we're actually going to be looking for the +1 max power charges through the Warlord influence. That's going to be the next most important thing, and then after that we're just going to slam some res, life, and attributes onto that. For our body armor, the most important thing on here is going to be the spell crit chance with the Hunter influence. Adding some life and res onto that is going to be perfectly fine. And then end game, I'm definitely going to be aiming more for and apply an additional curse and increase effect of non-curse auras, because we are going to be using hatred, and increase effect of auras with hatred is going to be a lot of fun and insane. More damage and explosions. We love explosions, all right? I need everything on the screen to disappear, so we're going to be using Ascendancy, and we're going to be hoping to get Dispel Crit Corruption on top of that. That's what we are going to be aiming for. So, of course, we get the curse enemies on hit with the Temp Chains. You are able to apply that with Divine Ire, so it's going to be a lot of fun seeing everything explode. For boots, we go zoom zoom with Tailwind. Of course, I do not plan on probably getting 35% move speed in the first week. Probably be aiming for 20% move speed, but hopefully that is something that will be easily attainable within the first week, and then adding some life and resistances onto there. For our amulet, we've been going Badge of the Brotherhood. Since it's power stacking, we can also get those frenzy charges through Badge of the Brotherhood. We're going to have 10 power charges, so we'll get those 10 frenzy charges as well with Badge, and it just equals more DPS. It's going to be a lot of fun and insane to use. For our rings, we're using Call of the Brotherhoods. This is for the conversion again, and we also get that 100% chance to shock frozen enemies. So for our belt, we're going to be using Stygian Vises. Nothing insane here. Pretty much just life, attribute, and resistance with the increased damage craft. Nothing crazy. For the eye jewel, we'll go with searching, and we'll get max life and crit multi as well. I'll probably be aiming for the move speed if you've killed recently. I think that's going to be the most fun, and so that's what I'm going to be aiming for. For the flask, we only have 2 unique flasks. We're going to be using at series Promise for leech and conversion to chaos damage, and we're going to be using Taste of Hate for a little bit of defense mitigation with fizz damage taken as cold, as well as a little bit of extra cold damage added on top of that. So other flasks beside that, I still have a life flask because I don't know how much leech we're actually gonna feel, how much we're gonna get. So I'm gonna test that out once we get into it and see if we still need that life flask. We're gonna be using Granite Flask because we are going to use Determination and Defiance Banner as defensive auras, so having that added armor is gonna be really strong for us. Later on into the league, I will definitely move Taste of Hate out for probably a Bottle of Faith if I still have to use a life flask. If I don't have to use life flask, I will put Bottle of Faith in for that. So for our cluster jewels, our large cluster jewel is going to be increased cold damage with Sadist and Blanketed Snow. Widespread Destruction is just there for the third notables so that you can get both Sadist and Blanketed Snow on the first 2 on the way to the jewel sockets. We won't be allocating that third notable. So Sadist is going to be really strong for us because we both chill and shock. So we're going to get that 15 and 25% increased elemental damage. We also have a notable on the tree that is, the elemental mastery on the tree that gives us physical damage as extra of a random element. So there is also a chance that we will still ignite if that rolls to fire and it's high enough. So we might also still get that, but getting 2 out of the 3 of those is still really strong for us. Blanketed Snow is helping us with that penetration of the cold resistance. We like to be penetrated, so we want to penetrate as much as possible. With our medium cluster, we have channeling skills to increase damage. We're going to use Rapid Infusion and Enduring Focus. Rapid Infusion, we have Infusion up most of the time with Infused channeling, so that's going to be really strong with for us to get some extra move speed. And then Enduring Focus is going to be even stronger for us because we have the increased damage, but we also have that chance to get the Endurance charge, so we're going to be able to get 3 Endurance charges as well. For our jewels, we're going to use the Watcher's Eye, so we're going to just go for the flat cold damage. We don't need the Hatred crit mod. It's not needed for our build. We're already crit capped without that. So we can save a little bit of money and just go for the flat cold. And again, we like the penetration, so we gotta go for the cold res penetrate with the Hatred. For the other jewels, our other 5 sockets, we can just go for double crit multi and a max life mod. That will be all that we need. Any more than that is just going to be extra damage for us. So later on, I'll definitely be aiming for a triple crit multi with life. And even later than that, if I find that I have enough life, I can definitely go for a quad crit multi, because Divine Ire has enough mods on the jewel that it can go for lightning, physical, global crit multi, and crit multi for spells. So it's really good for using crit multi jewels for that quad crit multi. And then for our Ascendancy, we're going to be going Occultist. So I have Void Beacon, Fridge of Wake, and Forbidden Power, and then Malediction. So I'm going to go over to the POB right now. This is the POB that I have set up for this build. For our Ascendancy, the Void Beacon, Fridge of Wake, obvious, very strong, gonna be a lot of fun. I love Cannot Be Frozen, because that's probably the one thing in the game that annoys me the most, is getting frozen and chilled. So having that immunity is gonna be a lot of fun and way strong. Forbidden Power, since we're power charge stacking, is gonna be a lot of damage for us. It's gonna be great. So the only one that I think might change would be Malediction. And Malediction would change to Withering Presence, because our Chaos Resistance is the lowest thing that we have, is the lowest mitigation that we have. So adding that 60 Chaos Res with the Ascendancy will be really nice. But that's going to depend on the endgame bosses, see if that is chaos heavy. Otherwise, I'm just gonna deal with dying a couple times in maps that have some chaos monsters in it. I personally don't mind really too much. So moving on to the masteries, we have the two obvious ones with the reservations. We're gonna go increased mana reservation, and then we're also gonna go aura from your skills have an increased effect on you, so it's gonna be really strong with hatred again. Next, with our life, we get 10% increased maximum life and plus 50 maximum life. Those two are gonna be really strong, help us get up above 4k life, so we're just a little bit tankier. Our lightning mastery is the fizz converted to lightning damage. Probably our strongest mastery on here is gonna be our charge mastery, because we're gonna have 10 frenzy charges, 10 power charges, and 3 endurance charges at max charges. So we're gonna have 23 times 3% increased damage from just that one mastery, which would be a lot of fun and insane. And then for our crit mastery, we go crit multi against uniques. With our elemental mastery, we go exposure you inflict applies at least minus 18 as the required one. And the other two that I may or may not switch between will be the +5 to all elemental resistances. This is going to depend on my gear, if my elemental resistance is high enough. If it is high enough and I don't need that, then I will be going for the gain 10% of physical damage as extra damage of a random element in order for the chance to get that ignite and extra damage into the cold and lightning. So overall, that's this tree. This is the one that has a cluster jewel. I personally hate cluster jewels. I hate crafting them. That's just like, I don't know why. I hate crafting them. I find it too much of a pain most of the time. These are really simple, so I think it's going to be fun to use those and easy to craft those. However, if you hate cluster jewels more than I do, I also put a non-cluster tree in here which grabs a little bit more of the elemental masteries and a couple of the crit nodes around. Both these trees are pretty simple overall. They just are going for the power charges and on the way grabbing any cold damage, any mana reservation life, and then crit notables. That's pretty much all it's working towards. Moving on to my skills. So Divine Ire is going to be linked up with Infused Channeling, because it's a channeling skill, and Infused Channeling is probably one of the best supports you can have for that. We're also going to add Inspiration in on here. We're going to need a lot of help with the mana on the channeling, because we want to make sure that we can sustain it if we do have to hold it for longer than a couple seconds. So reducing the cost of that mana is going to be really strong. It also helps with crit chance with the inspiration charges. So inspiration is definitely a really strong gem for us. Power charge on crit, more damage because we're power charge stacking. Awaken add lightning damage. I know it's getting nerfed, but either way, it's still going to be really strong for us, especially since the +1 lightning skill gems also applies to the Divine Ire, so it'll be really helpful for us. And then Awakened Cold Pen, we like penetration again, penetration everywhere, so we want that penetration of cold res, and then we also have that chance to inflict cold exposure and get that increased cold damage up in there. For our auras, we are going to be using Divergent Summon Skitterbots, and that's going to be linked up Bone Chill and Unbound Ailments, so we can get increased effect on those and a little bit more damage. We're obviously going to be using Hatred as well. It's going to be a lot of fun, insane damage. For our defensive auras, we're going to be using Determination and Defiance Banner. So this gets us up to 29k armor in my POV. It'll probably be a little bit less once we get in there, but it'll at least be 20k armor, which is going to be really strong for us. And so it's going to do a lot to help our Fizz mitigation. We're also going to be cursing with Hex Touch, Stormbrand, and Assmark. So we're going to choose Assmark for that increased crits. For some extra defense mitigation, we're going to be using Cast When Damage Taken Molten Shell, as well as using Summon Flame Golem for some extra damage. For our movement skill, we're going to be using Flame Dash with Arcane Surge. We also have Valrighteous Fire, because we do have room for that in our gems, so I'm going to put that in there. It's a lot of damage, obviously, when we are able to use Valrighteous Fire. And then we're going to be using Convocation on our left click, Divergent Convocation, because the Divergent gives us Unnerve nearby enemies for 4 seconds, so we can get some extra damage every so often when we use that. So overall, that is our this POB. For the bandits, we are going to go 2 passive points originally. If I find that we do have enough passive points to maybe take out a couple crit chance nodes or something like that, then I'll definitely try and go for a Lyra instead, so we can save some points for or so we can save some stuff for the resistances on the gear, get some extra crit multi in there and some mana regen. That'll be great to go for a Lyra. Looking at the calculations, our EHP, the armor, again, really high to help out the Fizz mitigation EHP pool. Our lowest one is going to be Chaos. Chaos is just something that, unless you build full Chaos res, we're not really going to be able to mitigate anything with that at this point. There's nothing that we have in this build. So that might be something that we could die to a decent amount of the time, which is why I'm still considering the Ascendancy change into Withering Presence for the extra res. Anyway, what are some weaknesses to this build? We got the Chaos damage mitigation, like I've said. We are attribute starved. We are hungry for the strength and dex, and it's hard to find out there. So we have almost all of the big 30 nodes on the tree, and a lot of attributes on our gear, and we're gonna need that. Our last weakness, well, it's a build that I made, so Lord only knows what is going to happen. Some strengths though, it's Divine Ire. It's the Beam of Death. It just goes and kills everything. So overall, I am really excited for this build. I cannot wait to get this going within week 1, and I hope y'all can join me on this journey of Divine Ire fun. If you would like to watch me live within the first week, I will be streaming every day within the first week of launch, and that will be on twitch.tv/FullMetalShorty. And if you guys like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys later.